All right, Benny, great to have you here, man.
Glad to be home, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, great to see you. Just want to first off thank you for, you've always been such a support to us since we opened, kind of shouting us out everywhere you're at, wearing the Con Alma logo around the world. So we appreciate that, and as you know, we're always rooting for you out there. So, just wanted to get in touch with a few questions and let people know, where you're coming from, where you're at, where you're going. And, I guess my first question for you was, you're from the South Hills like me, actually, and I'm just curious how you got involved in the Pittsburgh jazz scene,
Yeah, well, growing up in Upper St. Clair in the South Hills, we always say you're from Pittsburgh, but technically I guess I'm from a suburb, so it's a good 15, 20-minute drive into downtown. But the first chance that I had my learner's permit, 15 years old, and I could go downtown and go to CJ's and hear Sean Jones and hear Roger Humphries. At the time, there was a club downtown called Little E's that was playing music during the week, and any chance I could get to kind of come downtown and be a part of that culture, I was trying to do it. And of course, I come from a family legacy of jazz. So, my father, Benny Benack Jr., also part of the Con Alma crew, and his father, Benny Benack Sr., the jazz goes back for generations. So, I was around the music. We had CDs in the car. We had records that I was listening to. So I started really young at home. And from that, I got to start working with some of the musicians in town that were just friends with my dad. So I really was just sitting in on my dad's gigs and then grew into doing some of my own gigs.
Yeah. And you were around kind of a generation of other jazz legacy families in Pittsburgh, like Anton DeFade and the DeFades and George Hyde and the Hydes. So that must have been really interesting. I've heard some of the recordings you guys did when you were young, and they're killing. They're great.
Yeah, it was really fun. We kind of discovered each other because, you're that age, and I had great band directors at Upper St. Clair, Glenn Wayland and Frank Eisenreich, and Joe Herndon was my first trumpet teacher when I was in middle school, and Chelsea Barrett's another great Pittsburgh product. She went to my high school and was a mentor to me. So, I was getting it from all sides, but it wasn't until I connected in junior high with George Hyde III, Brett Williams, and Anton DeFade, where we were all the same age, and we kind of had this similar background of growing up around the music here.
Yeah.
And we found each other, and the Center of Life was a big part of that. And
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We just did a whole Center of Life show the other night.
Yeah. So Pastor Tim was great, and Tim Jr., I met him at that age too, just killing it. So there was we found each other in Pittsburgh as young guys trying to deal with this music, and we became brothers. We still play together and hang out to this day.
Yeah, and so that time as well, Sean Jones was around. And so that's related to my next question, which was who are some of the most, the really influential older musicians in Pittsburgh? Obviously, with Sean being here, I know he was a big part of that for you and you guys. But who else would you say?
Yeah, Sean, it starts with him, one of the greatest trumpet players and really educators and mentors in the world. And I was just his shadow. Wherever he was at in Pittsburgh, I was following him around. But, as you mentioned, I kind of got the start through some of the other great Pittsburgh musicians that would play with my dad. So Eric DeFade and my dad, they were like, Gene Ammons and, and Eddie Lockjaw Davis. They had a two-man game on tenor. So would love to hear Eric. And Max Leake was on my dad's T-ball team. They played baseball together when they were kids. So getting to hear Max go play with Roger. That was really Thursday nights at CJ's, you could just put a table along the wall of me, Anton, and George, and Brett. That was our church. We would go every week. And, of course, at that time, James Moore was also spending a lot of time in Pittsburgh. So between James and Sean, as far as trumpet goes, I was in heaven. There was so much to learn.
Oh, man. And so you were around Roger a lot as well, and Dwayne, Dolphin. And would you say, musically, because you have there's this advantage when you've gone out, you met other musicians, going to school at Manhattan. Would you say that really affected your ear because you were hearing the music, music that most people growing up from your generation down, including mine, it's more simplistic, and this music it's an American classical music, as Ahmad Jamal used to call it. So, would you say just being around the music developed your ear? And isn't your mom is also musical theater, correct? So you also grew up around that world a little bit.
Yeah, my mom is on faculty at Carnegie Mellon, one of the great drama schools in the country, also here in Pittsburgh. So I was learning the Great American Songbook, one musical at a time from my mom. But really, I think, like you said, the sound of Pittsburgh jazz specifically, we think of George Benson, Stanley Turrentine, Art Blakey, Errol Garner, Ahmad Jamal, Mary Lou Williams, all of these musicians coming out of the sound of Pittsburgh, blue-collar city, hard swinging, hard bop town. Roger, obviously, with his time spent with Horace Silver, that influenced everyone after him. So when I got to New York City, I was kind of coming at it from this hard bop, swinging, bebop, Pittsburgh sort of angle, and that was what was in my ear. And you get to New York City, and as you know, there's just so much music there, and there's so many different styles and clubs, and in every era of the music is represented in New York. And it took me some time to kind of find my people in New York that also were like, oh, you mean you were checking out those Blue Note records of, Art Blakey and Clifford Brown together live at the Birdland? And once I found my crew out there, it started to feel like home, because whenever I come back to Pittsburgh, we all know this common language. We know the records. So it's like, coming back to family.
That's right. Yeah. Wow, man. And would you say that in that way, Pittsburgh kind of prepared you in a strong way to go out into the world? Like something we talk about a lot here is like kind of the mentorship and like, coming up around, under Dwayne and Roger, got old school cats who give it to you, because they love you. They tell you what it needs to be. They tell you when you're wrong. They tell you when it's not together.
Yeah, I always say that, man. That many people come to New York, and it's kind of like a deer in headlights thing where you're not ready for that. But Pittsburgh, it was like that was my graduate school. So by the time I went to college in New York, like you said, I was already hearing greatness. So it wasn't like I was totally unprepared for that in New York. I mean, there was more of it, just as far as volume of great musicians, but it wasn't like I hadn't been exposed to that level already. So I felt like I had a huge head start when I moved up there.
Yeah, and you went to Manhattan School of Music, right? And then after that, just playing, touring. So what do you have going on right now? Like where are you at? I know like a couple years ago you were a finalist in the Sarah Vaughan competition. I know in this last year Downbeat just named you #1 rising vocalist. So congrats on that, by the way.
Thank you.
So what's the next step for you? I know you're touring a lot. I know you're centered in New York. I know you run a jam session at Smalls every Wednesday when you're in town.
Yeah, there's a lot of coals in the fire right now. I have a live album that I recorded over Labor Day at the Blue Llama, a great club in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Right.
So that'll be the record. I think the first single's going to be out February, March, and then that'll be out in the spring. So I'll have a new record that I'll be trying to promote, and my dad plays tenor on some of those tunes. So he's getting ready to retire from Dollar Bank. So I'm hoping I can start to kind of get my dad out on the road a little bit with the band.
That's awesome.
That would be super fun.
That'd be wonderful, yeah.
And, it's sort of, for me, I'm living on the road. I mean, I'm about to buy an apartment in New York, which is crazy,
great,
which is
Congrats.
Absolutely nuts. But, that means I'm going to be centered on the East Coast, at least close to an airport. But it's a lot of traveling, and I know there's some clubs that are in the O-Jazz family that are countries I haven't been to yet. So I might need O-Jazz to, hook me up, because I want to get to every corner of the world and spread this gospel of this music. That's really what it's about.
That's beautiful, man. Well, thanks for taking the time to be here. Always an honor to have you here, brother.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Benny must be from heaven, must be from heaven. Benny must be from heaven, 'cause he damn sure ain't from me. Whoa, yeah. Thank you and good night.
We are jazz.